But you never know that you could. And when you feel that way, ain't it good, good dancing in the red and gold. Dancing in the red and gold.
What's up, Faithful? Welcome to the latest episode of the 49er Faithful UK Live. As always, I'm Paul Hope.
And I'm Nick Ludlam.
Well, you all know I'm feeling pretty good after that win over the Seahawks. Puts us at 10-3 on the season, number one seed in the NFC, and we've clinched our spot in the playoffs, baby. First team to punch that ticket. Oh, it's pretty good being a 49er right now, and I make no apologies for using that pun. Lots to talk about as always, but before we get into that, much more, I'm sure. How are you doing tonight, buddy?
Yeah, pretty good. I think you've stolen the thunder with the pun. I don't think I can go too far with that, but I mean, what more could you want? We swept the Seahawks, and we're into the playoffs. Happy days.
So,
how have you been, bud?
Well, I think everybody knows the Seahawks is the big one for me. It's my rivalry. It's been added with an extra bit of spice in the last 18 months because my flag football team, majority of them are Seahawks fans. And earlier in the season, when we went on our 3-game losing streak, they took great delight in pointing it out to me. They've gone very quiet in the last few weeks. I'm not quite sure why. But feel free to use it, Faithful. Purdy good. Got the chat is on fire. So before we get started, I'll just give a few shout outs. So there's none bigger, and I mean physically, there's none bigger than James Waters. If you've seen that photo of me and James stood outside Levi's, I look like a small child. But James, don't you worry, buddy. You'll catch the show when it's uploaded onto YouTube, and he's looking forward to tonight's Would You Rather. Have you been talking to James, Nick? Because that's a little bit telling.
It's a bit worrying. I'm wondering if you've been talking to James.
Colin is in the house. Good evening. I was in your neck of the woods at the weekend, but I'll get into that in a bit. Justin, your flag is on its way. I know you're going to be flying that proud over across the pond. Rob D is in the house. Bang Bang UK Niner gang. Ty Ulston. I'm going to be seeing a lot of Ty over the next few days. More to come, which I'm sure we'll all see.
Little spoilers.
Ray in the house. And let's have a little look. There's a comment that just popped up there. That opening song just reminds me of early MTV. So, yeah, we're very lucky that the Gathering of Strangers allows us to use that song, which is played at Levi's. Every time I hear that song, I'm instantly transported to that wonderful stadium. And yes, Ty, this show is purdy likeable. So smash that like button. But Nick, where do you want to start? You said it at the top of the show. We beat the Seahawks. I've got my own stories I want to share, but we'll start with yours. What did you make of Sunday night, buddy?
This was never in doubt. Absolutely never in doubt from that very first play. CMC, 72 yards. My only shock is that he didn't score. I thought he was going to go through. I was all set to blow the roof off my apartment, annoy all my neighbors, and he just came up short, which didn't actually work out too badly for me because I think you have to start calling me Nick Stradamus now, though, because I started Jordan Mason. Of course, he came in, finished that off with a little cheeky touchdown, so that was handy to have for my fantasy team. But this was never in doubt. Not at all. Even when the Seahawks managed to score back, I was like, no, they're still going to lose. They had no hope. The Niners had them from the first moment that game started. They were already in there. They knew what was going on. I mean, they knew ultimately the only way, the easiest way to stop DK Metcalf, wind him up. Once you get inside his shirt, that's it. He's done. He's done for the game because he can't concentrate. He doesn't have the ability to concentrate. I mean, it's just been fantastic all the way through the entire game. Debo, you said before the show, we were talking about how great Debo's been. Another fantastic performance. You know, he's got 5 touchdowns in 2 games. I think you had a wonderful stat. I can't remember what it was now. You have to share that stat again.
Yeah, so we're going to show Debo a lot of love on the show tonight, and that's got nothing to do with the fact that I spent the weekend with Connor Ryan, who is Debo Samuel's biggest supporter. We've jumped ahead a little bit because you mentioned the new segment on the show, Angry Neighbours. Drop in the chat whilst I get this Debo stat. How many letters Nick has had this week from his neighbours? But I said at the start of the show to Nick that I wanted to show Debo the love. 19 career rushing touchdowns, the most in NFL history by a wide receiver. Nick pointed out, is it 5 touchdowns in the last
5 in 2 weeks?
He's in your fantasy team. I'd called for another Debo touchdown on my bold prediction, so he added that to another one. I mean, I'll answer you a bit about the 72-yard drive to begin with. Last week against the Eagles, a lot of people got themselves upset because we came out and we went pass heavy to begin with, and it didn't go so well. But I said at the time, I think Kyle Shanahan's just seeing what the Eagles defense is going to do. He's given Brock a little bit of a confidence boost going back to where the injury happened. Gareth said on the pod last night that we don't have an identity at the moment, and I disagreed a little bit. We still run heavy, but I didn't think for a second that Kyle Shanahan was going to call, right, lads, first play of the game, we're going to go to the left behind Trent Williams and hit that gap. I mean, JT O'Sullivan and Baldy, their breakdowns. The Baldy breakdown of that play, Nick, is just poetry in motion. The offensive line, which has been mentioned in our Discord chat, needs a lot of love for that. And Brandon Ayuk, if ever a rookie wide receiver needs game tape to show what it takes to play in this offense, look at Brandon Ayuk out in front, making those blocks. And I think CMC himself said it when Brandon blocked that last defender. CMC should have to the right, not to the left. And you've got to give 53 for the Seahawks credit because he was the one who nearly got to Purdy. And then he backtracked and got the tackle. Everyone who's got CMC in fantasy was rubbing their hands together until John Mason came on the field. And we're going to show Big Play Brock, which is my new name for Brock Purdy, which I'll get to. We're going to show Brock some love. But you mentioned Debo Samuel. I mean, he benefited from a beautiful throw from Purdy. But, and I say I'm taking nothing away from Purdy, Debo got open first. Debo Samuel himself, he was on with Kay Adams earlier. He was the last read on that play. And there's been a knock, Nick, in recent weeks on Debo that when he knows it's not his number being called, the effort's not there. Yet the way he took off, and you know yourself playing flag football, sometimes the way you run your route, and Debo kind of paused, and then when he realised the ball was coming, he took off. And Brock Purdy, it was as if he watched JT O'Sullivan, because last week JT O'Sullivan was quite critical of a similar throw where he accused Brock of checking it down to Ayuk, and he wanted to see it go deep. And that play got us lot up at the candlestick up on our feet. But again, he had 8 touches on Sunday, Nick, racking up 150 total yards on 8 touches, 2 touchdowns. I dare say that 2023 Debo is better than 2021 Debo. What do you reckon?
I think the stats are there to prove that. Let's be honest. You'd find anyone. Well, you find anyone who's disagreeing with that, and they're not doing so from what they're seeing on the field. They're just saying because they want to try and protect their own opinion, potentially, of maybe what happened last year. But he's just been a revelation. I mean, when you add that to the fact Ayuk has gone over 1,000 yards again, there may be better individual wide receivers in the league. You're looking at maybe your Justin Jeffersons, but there's no better pairing. They combine so beautifully together. They're so unselfish. You know, say you've got Ayuk is ready to block anyone, anywhere. Debo will happily line up in the backfield, take the ball as a running back. Not a problem at all. They are just amazing together. Absolutely. They're so interchangeable. You can move them in and about. They were mentioning on the broadcast quite frequently how Debo is more than happy to go sit back alongside CMC, and that's where a lot of their plays were starting from, whether or not they were starting there from the very beginning or motioning Debo back towards Brock. He will do anything because he can do everything. And he knows that all he needs is the ball. He's got Trent. If he's going to run with it, he's got Big Trent to run behind. You know, they were saying I don't think Trent's actually allowed a sack now since last season. I think it's something like 14 games on the bounce without a sack come through him. The man is beyond special, absolutely beyond special. Easily the best left tackle in the league. But take none of that away from Devo, because he will go and make those hard yards count. The moment anyone comes towards him, whether it be a linebacker who's charging downfield or one of those big rangy cornerbacks that the Seahawks got, he doesn't care. Devo knows he can go through them. He'll just hit them like, nah, toss you aside.
Yeah, I mean, John Chapman, good friend of the show, he shared a tweet that I screenshot, and he put Deebo Samuel finished with a 90.3 run blocking grade versus Seattle. That's his highest run blocking grade since his rookie year in 2019. And this is what I mean. You go and watch the game tape. I'm a fan, first and foremost. I live in the UK. I'm not a JT O'Sullivan. I'm not a John Chapman. But in the last 18 months, I've started to watch a bit more game tape. And you start noticing things. You start picking things up. And this is what I'm saying about the effort. Deebo Samuel is putting the effort in when he's not getting the ball. He's still not quite CMC's level. CMC's level is unbelievable. And you mentioned Trent Williams on the touchdown where it was like the jet sweep to Deebo, which, again, you've got to give Kyle kudos. Deebo fought for those hard yards, and it was good to see Kyle give him the touchdown because Brock ad-libbed, gets the ball to Deebo, makes the defenders miss. I thought it was a touchdown at first, but his knee was just down. But Trent Williams is blocking two men on that play, and Deebo strolls into the end zone untouched, which is no mean feat at the NFL. And as Justin's put there when we talked about the Ayuk block, that's the visual definition for the 500th time of what separates this team from all the rest.
Yeah.
And this team is the best in the NFL.
100%.
We have been saying since day one, people, that this 49ers team, you've got to be excited. And I'm going to enjoy it. I've had a lot of hate from the non-Niners fans. The lads at Flag Football were on at me a few weeks ago. They've gone suspiciously quiet. I'm going to enjoy this one. I'm going to lap it up. And yes, Justin, this is something that was on my notes. 400 players, over 800 yards on the season with 4 games to go. I broke it down last night, Justin, on the 49er Faithful UK pod, so I won't repeat myself. But it's the first time it's happened for us. I think Joe and Steve had 2. I don't think we've had 3 or 4 reach 1,000-yard season. And there's 4 games to go. A few other people. So there's a comment here that I just starred and I don't want to lose it. So DK touchdown irritated me in the moment. Yeah, we're going to talk about the secondary, Justin. So I'll put that one back up a little bit later on because we're on the offense at the moment. And there's a lot of love for our Aussie punter, but you'll just have to wait. We're going to get there shortly. Rob, never apologise, buddy. It's always good to see you. Kev.
Please.
Not sure where you've been. There must have been a raffle on there, was there, buddy?
Probably winning something, yeah.
But this offense, I mean, I'm known for being optimistic when it comes to the 49ers. And we think back to when we traded for CMC. And as Neil Graham pointed out to me in the Candlestick Inn, it was a C- grade by all the experts out there, Nick. C- for CMC. Yeah. I still feel like we owe the Panthers an apology because we absolutely robbed them blind. But
I feel like we owe them a pick.
Any more love for Deebo before we move on? I was trying to think if there was anything else that I had written down for my Deebo stats. I think pretty much. I just wanted to make sure we got the love.
We could wax lyrical about Deebo Samuel for hours and hours and hours on end. But I think should we move on to your main man? Mr. Big Play.
I was about to say, I'm hoping you're thinking of this man because I've got a few things.
There he is. Big
Play Brock. So we talked a lot before this game that the Seattle defense, cover 3, would try and take away the intermediate section of the field where Brock likes to play. And they were daring him to throw that ball. Mm-hmm. And Brock, if you go on the next gen stats, I'm not going to put the link up on here because I'll mess it up. But if you go on the next gen stats, David Lombardi shared this tweet yesterday, and you could see the focus was on Seattle taking away those intermediate throws. And what Purdy did, Nick, was he responded by beating them underneath and over the top. And that's why I'm calling him Big Play Brock. Doesn't mean it was a deep ball all the time. The play to Ayuk, when it looked like the play was breaking down and he escapes out the pocket, he sets his hips and he drops an absolute dime into Brandon Ayuk. Wasn't perfect from Brock, Some would say he was
True.
erratic, a little bit inaccurate early on, struggled to get on the same page as receivers, which I thought was a bit harsh. I think Ayuk ran the wrong route for the pick. And I think Debo, there was another instance where I think Debo came out of the break a bit early and the ball went behind him. But what we love about Purdy is he plays with that anticipation. And sometimes if you're not on the same page, you're going to get that slightly wrong. But I don't think the Seattle Seahawks had him rattled. What do you think, Nick?
No.
There was a lot of people saying that, oh, he was rattled. And, you know, he came from behind, which a lot of people say that Brock Purdy can only beat teams when he's in front. Seattle put up a better fight than I thought, but he adjusted quickly. I mean, I've already talked about it. My favourite play of the game was the 55 or 54-yard touchdown to Debo Samuel. But do you think big play Brock is a moniker we can get trending on this side of the pond? What do you reckon?
We can try. I'm not sure how far it's going to go because I hear big play and I hear Dre. I'll be honest. I hear and I love BCB. We can't say what that says on here because we are supposed to be family friendly, even despite my little S-bomb a couple of shows back. But no, Brock is special. Brock is playing at an elite level. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. We've said this on the show before. You've said it yourself again this evening. That interception, look, that doesn't happen if Ayuk does run that route correctly and comes back and it's a slightly less steep angle, not straight back, but with more of an angle to it. It goes straight into his belly. Plus the fact, he does make a good effort to try and get the ball and he tips it up into the air. That's just bad luck. You can't go blaming Brock for the interception, I don't think, at that point. I don't really think you can go blaming Ayuk too much other than the sort of route run because he still made a pretty damn good attempt. It was just unlucky that it tipped up just enough to go to the Seahawks secondary. But that's pretty much all they had. Realistically, I mean, I was never worried at all throughout the entire game. It was always going to be a win. Even before kickoff, it was always just going to be by how much. And the Niners proved it. They can make adjustments in game when they need to. I know we had a bit of a rough stretch for 3 games, but they have gone on and proven that actually we can make changes. We can do this. And they've been phenomenal.
I mean, one of the things I've got written down on my notes, which you will laugh, we're seeing a new best throw of Purdy's career every week. Every week we're coming and doing a show and we're like, that throw from Brock Purdy. The stats that we alluded to earlier. So another notable achievement is normally when a QB comes in, they have one receiver to go to. You think of Mahomes, you think of Kelsey, you think of Josh Allen, you think of Diggs. And the list could go on. You know, look at Purdy. Ayuk's topped 1,000 yards on Sunday for the second straight season. Kittle's got 811 yards. Samuel, 739 yards. CMC, I haven't got the yardage to hand, but we're just saying how rare is that? And I mentioned Montana and Young. No 49ers team has had 3 1,000-yard receivers in one season. There's only been 3 seasons where the Niners have had 2. In 89, Jerry Rice and John Taylor. 91, Rice and Taylor. 98, Rice and T.O. So this kid, and I'm calling him a kid because people forget,
Well, he is.
He's on the verge of something special, and the hype train is ramping up people. As Rob put there, remember, he's a system QB, and Dak deserves the MVP over him. Adam, I'm on the same page as you, buddy. Dink and dunk narrative is officially dead. Now, I led in there with a little bit of he didn't have a great start. Purdy continued Sunday, a career high 368 passing yards. He completed 19 of 27 passes with a pair of touchdowns and an interception. Now, the elephant in the room is we all know a certain QB that we had in the not so distant past would throw the ball away at the worst time possible. We'd always groan, we'd always mourn. But you can see the confidence Kyle has in Brock. And like we said, none of us, I didn't see any hate in the game day threads. I didn't see any hate on social media. And he bounced straight back. I think the next play after the pick, he went straight back to Ayuk, get that one out of his system. You know, he bounced back. It was the start of a 5-play drive spanning 83 yards, completing all 3 passes, including the bomb to Samuel. That 45-yard completion to Ayuk before he kept the third down alive with his feet. He finished the game strong with another 44-yard touchdown to George Kittle. And do you know what was special about that touchdown to Kittle? I didn't even think it was out of the ordinary. It's just something I've got used to now. Hence why I've gone with the big player Brock. I mean, Justin agrees with you. Big player Dre, all pro Fred. But I just wanted to show, I know we've been high on the Purdy hype train, but I just think it cares for MVP. Dak Prescott has got his supporters in the media. My friend Chris, Dallas fan, I've had my weekly text. He's on a high, obviously, because they beat the Eagles. I'm going to give him that. But you go around the league, you know, if I did a would you rather, Brock Purdy or Dak Prescott, it's a no-brainer in my eyes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If anyone's taking Brock, only Cowboy fans are taking Dak. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, just before we move off Brock Purdy, his accuracy. That's another reason we're not worried with the pick. 70% accuracy. You look at all the metrics of how you judge a quarterback in this league, and he's number one on the list.
Everything.
And this is what I'm laughing because my non-Niners friends like to beat me with the stick, and they want nothing better than the Niners to fail. And I'm loving that with the number one seed. We've bounced back, and as Justin's put there, that deflected pass to an interception has worked out in our favour so many times until the playoffs. It doesn't bother him much, and you want it. That's why I'm kind of glad we struggled in parts against the Seahawks, because the game was never in any doubt, but it was a closer battle than what we thought. I mean, as much as I hate Pete Carroll, Nick, kudos for you now role play against us. They did the Kittle double pump fake play on us, and they kept the game alive. Bigging the Seahawks up a little bit because we need them to do us another favour this week.
I mean, I'll give them a little bit of credit. I won't give them a lot. I think that's going to be more down to the limited tape that you've got on Drew Lock in that offense. I put that more down to that than coaching, and to be honest.
So, and as Rob has put there, Brock's stats compared to Dak Mahomes are sensational. First in the league across multiple different stats. In each game, he shows something a little different. And I think the way we look at quarterbacks in this league, and obviously Mahomes is the standard bearer. That's what most casual fans, to see the red zone, to see the highlights. We won't go down the rabbit hole of his petulant behaviour after Sunday's game. But Brock Purdy just exudes confidence on and off the field. Just listen to George Kittle talk about him. Deebo Samuel, K. Adams again was trying to, gently prod there as the assistant quarterback. And Deebo was like, since he's come in, and Deebo said something brilliant. He was like, you remember Mr. Irrelevant, last pick of the draft, came in last year and was dicing up the best defense in the NFL in practice. So this kid hasn't just come in off the street and not shown it. He's earned the respect of the locker room. Justin's jumped on my comment there about the copycat league. That's what I've got to say. I was quite surprised. As soon as Locke turned, I thought, I can't believe he used that play on us. But Kev's put there. Brock doesn't look flustered. And Shifty's 49ers talk. You've noticed the setup. Nick's is more awesome than mine. Though you'll have noticed, Nick, I've got a new addition in the background.
I did. There's a cheeky little 7 in there.
So I have to mention it while we digress. So I was up at the Candlestick Inn the weekend. Our good friend Brett Sinclair lives in sunny Scotland, Falkirk to be exact. He's built the ultimate man bar in his back garden. A select few get invited every year, and he has a friend who is an artist, and he's decked the Candlestick Inn out in canvases like that one. But he got me Kaepernick, because Kaepernick was my first jersey, and he got El Presidente, a Fred Warner one, and they're just both fire.
Awesome.
So I promised Brett that I would show off the love, show off the photo and show some love. Leanne, welcome to the show. Happy Clinchmas. You know I love a good put on Nick Jaw.
Yes, that will be stolen. Thank you very much, Leanne.
So the final thing of the game I wanted to talk about before we moved on was the defense. We spoke off air, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, secondary. Do you think we should start with the secondary? Because you mentioned a certain player that you wanted to mention.
I think there's one guy. I know he hasn't been in the team all year. You know who I'm talking about. Jair Brown. He has slid into that secondary. We were all, and rightfully so, we were all worried when Hufanga went down. That's a huge miss. You're talking at an all-pro level safety. And thinking, right, what are we going to do? I even did that would you rather when I asked you, would you rather have kept and just gone with Jair or gone and traded for someone? My God, you've been proven right. By taking stick with Jair, man. He's been fantastic. He slipped in, he's been seamless.
I'll give you Alex Simpson's number because he's another one who seems to doubt me. But go on, Nick, keep going while I look for his stats.
It was phenomenal. He's been absolutely fantastic the entire time. He slipped in there. And that secondary isn't missing a beat. And even when they lost Travarius Ward, I mean, that's going to be a big miss when you lose your number one cornerback for the entire game. Looks like he could be out for a couple of weeks, but potentially that's a huge miss as well. But Brown is stepping up and making big plays. Brown is stepping up and he's holding that spot down really quite well. To be honest, it's actually giving me a little bit of hope that I say a little bit of hope. So I don't hope that Gibson's going to leave because he's been great himself. He's been absolutely fantastic as a veteran presence within our secondary. But next year, it is looking like if Fanga's good to go, it could very well be him and Jair Brown as the safety pairing, and then deciding on whether or not Gibson wants to carry on for another year. Does he want to hang up his cleats? Does he want to take maybe more of a mentorship role and maybe be that third safety in the group? But Brown has been amazing. And the fact that we haven't spoken about him as being targeted by the defense, he hasn't been picked on, is just testament as to how easily he's picked up that defense.
Well, the breaking news banner across the bottom, Nick, is tongue-in-cheek. So on last night's pod, our good friend Naji Karar, he said that Brown could be better than Hufanga. Now, I know Naji loves Huff, and that I was left speechless. Doesn't happen very often, people. Bear in mind, Brown was making his second career start. He recorded 6 tackles, a pass breakup, and an interception. And as Justin's put there, he felt really bad because Fred stole his pick. But what happened after, which we'll get to, was pure gold. Now, we said at the start of the year, our good friend Jason Aponte was very high on Jair Brown. Apparently he's from the East Coast. Jason managed to do an interview with him just after he was drafted, which I'm giving it a shout out because that was the first time that really cool. I'd kind of did a bit more of a deep dive on a player that we just drafted. The organisation were quite high on him. I think that's part of the reason Steve Wilkes was brought in to bring these rookies up to speed. Now, we have a good record, everyone, of drafting a player, sitting them as a red shirt and kind of bringing them in for next year. Like you said, I think the plan was always for Gibson to play this year, Nick. Brown to be his replacement. And what I liked what Wilkes has done, he'd sprinkled Brown a couple of snaps here and there. He'd kept him around the team. When you see the team come out with the boom box and the hype, Brown's been in the middle of it all. And after the Buccaneers game, we were there. Get that on record again. George Kittle came out and said, I'm not surprised how well this kid had played. As rookies, as one of the senior players, he spoke to the rookies and he said, you come in, you absorb like a sponge, you look after your body. And he said Brown has been on it from day one. And in the NFL, we all have our favourites. Hufanga came in from nowhere. But as much as you don't like to see Huff injured, it's opened the door for Brown to come in, like you said. We're not sat here now talking about the secondary being torched. I mean, Ward went off injured. DK Metcalf. I don't think Thomas could have done anything more on the touchdown. When you watch it back, it was perfect coverage.
It was great coverage. He played it really well. It was just a good throw and a good catch. As horrible as that is to say.
And as much as we all hate DK Metcalf, he started well. Well, I say well. 2 receptions for 52 yards. He seemed to be the go-to. And then we shut him down because he finished the game with 2 receptions, 52 yards. And I think the reason Lenore got himself sent off was so he could go to the locker room and cover DK because he'd done such a good job during the game. He decided just to follow him. If you rewind to the start of the season, Nick, and if we were sat here and we're saying that Ambry Thomas, Lenore were going to be our corners and you're going to have Brown in at safety and we were going to talk about a game where DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett did nothing against us, be a little bit surprised. I mean, the frustration began to set in, which we saw with DK losing his SHIT with Fred.
Yeah.
Fred showed why he's the leader of the locker room, just laughed in his face. was great to see Lenore jump to Fred's rescue, though. To be fair, Demo, I think Fred can look after himself, buddy. But it just goes to show the spirit we've got in our team.
It
And
does.
the interception he got, what impressed me most with Brown before we move on, was the play made. He locked on to lock. He saw with his eyes, and he made the interception. It wasn't as if the ball just came to him. And I think this promising. There's promising. And yeah, Justin, you can use that one. That's my theory. People can use it. You mentioned Hafanga's injury. To be fair, we know it's a business. I know the cap's going
Can't
up
pay
next year.
Eventually, something's going to happen, you know.
I saw Jason Hurley put a good tweet. He breaks the cap down better than anyone. And he put a tweet out where he thinks Hafanga may have to come back and prove, he's not going to get a big contract at the moment. And when we get into the off-season, folks, we'll break down the contract a bit more. But no, I just wanted to show the secondary the love, because when Ward went off, I thought, oh, here we go. I would rather Ward sat out against the Cardinals this week, Nick. I mean, we signed Verrett to the practice squad, so I don't think we're going to be short for numbers, but I don't think Ward's a serious injury. Do you?
No, it doesn't look that way. I think it looks like he's escaped the worst of it, and I think we got some pretty good news regarding Hargrave on the D-line. Obviously, they came out. There was the hamstring issue. It looks like he's probably avoided the worst of that as well. Now, if it means they've got to sit the pair of them for several weeks, fine. If that ends up costing us the number 1 seed, fine. We're still going to be one of the top 4 seeds going into the playoffs, and those players will have had a nice rest. The last thing we want now is them aggravating it, making it worse, and being out for that much longer, potentially being out for playoff games where it really matters. Because that's when we want them. If it means they're going to be rested, I'm fine with them sitting out for 2-3 weeks if necessary. Kinlaw came in, has done really quite well the last few weeks. He's been asked to prove himself. He knew he had to do something this year. And I think he's getting there. He's not being spectacular, but he's definitely getting there. I trust him to be able to come in and do a job for the next couple of weeks. He's really going to have a tough time against the Ravens potentially in 2 weeks if Hargrave isn't back for that. But like you say, Verrett's had a nice long rest. Hopefully his legs are okay. Coming in for what he's going to get promoted to the active squad next week. That's a near certainty. The fact that he was at the stadium claiming to be there as a fan, that worked out rather well in the end. I think he knew something was going to happen anyway. He likely was going to get signed to at least the practice squad to be one of those vet guys moving forward anyway.
Yeah, we didn't get that treatment. We weren't in the locker room. I'd love to have been in there. No, you're right. I mean, just before we move on, Shifty's down there that he's put Lenore was amazing Sunday. Thomas wasn't bad. Brown's been solid. Rob came in calm and collected, made plays when needed. Easy to slip up, but has stood on his own 2 feet, which is great to see. Kinlaw, I wanted to mention, and I'm glad you reminded me, he came to the stadium on Sunday, went to the club store. That must have been an awesome sight for the fans. Bought Eric Armstead's jersey, stuck that on, and walked into the locker room with that on. It just goes to show the team spirit. And we segue nicely on to the D-line. So a lot of Seahawks fans might want to turn away at this. So we've now got 108 pressures against the Seahawks over the past 2 seasons. And on the Sunday, you had Bosa with 8, Kinlaw with 4, Ferrell with 4, Hargrave with 2, Randy Gregory with 2, Chase Young with 1, Kevin Givens with 1. So like I said, even with Hargrave, with these big D linemen, when it's a hamstring, it could be a game, it could be 3-4 months. Like you said, at the moment, we've clinched the playoffs. We don't need to take any risks. I suppose you get into that business end of the season where, touch wood, we've been quite fortunate with injuries. Nothing seems to be too serious. We've got another comment that's just popped up here, which we were talking about. So Hafanga, strong safety. Brown is a free safety. I think Nadji said something similar about that last night. I'll be the first to admit, Gopher, not an expert. Still picking things up. Colin agrees with you. He'd sit Hargrave. Doesn't want him to try and catch the road runner, because you forget we're going up against a mobile quarterback, which some people seem to think we struggle against. And Gopher's put there that we'll need Hargrave against the Ravens. That game's shaping up to be an absolute blockbuster. I keep saying Christmas Day on social media. It's 1 in the morning and Boxing Day for us, but it's going to be a big game. And
It'd be
as
huge.
Justin's put there, Kinlaw respecting Armstead like that, and with his video speech, you can tell how much he looks up to Armstead. And Justin's hoping that Kinlaw comes back on a 1-year deal. Now,
See that?
there's a player that wasn't a player that we need to talk about. So, Ray, I had this saved, buddy. Don't worry, I wasn't missing this. So, the best 4th-round pick in the history of the NFL. That is a fact. So, I don't know about you, Nick. I was on my feet, and
Oh, yeah.
I love a good trick play. I don't care whether he winged it or whether Shanahan called it. I remember when they did that to us a couple of seasons ago. Me and Connor were at my house watching the game. We went to punt the ball. They went to punt the ball away. I saw, go make a drink, Connor. As I got to the kitchen, he was like, they've scored a touchdown. I was like, what do you mean they've scored a touchdown? I come running back in, and I was like horrified. So whenever the Seahawks go to punt against us, I always think in the back of my mind, is there a trick play coming?
Cover it.
I was gutted of all the bloody players to bring it back was Ronnie Bell, because he's my player watch on the pod.
I know.
He slipped, but by the letter of the law from where the referee was stood. But my theory is a couple of years ago, Mitch wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have had the confidence to do that because he'd have got into trouble off Kyle. 2, maybe he didn't think the defense a couple of years ago could have bailed him out, or the offense if we got the ball back. But it just shows the confidence that this team has, that they're prepared to take risks. We talked about Brock and the interceptions. Someone put another comment up and I can't find it. Mate, put Mitch on a jet sweep. What do you reckon? Mitch on a jet sweep. Trent Williams out in front. Could you imagine that touchdown?
I can. I genuinely can. I think he could do it. You're talking about an Aussie rules football player there. He's not afraid to get involved with the hits. He's laid down some pretty big hits in his rookie season as a punter. Some pretty big tackles. So we know he can do it. I've always been a bit surprised that we've never really diced something up a bit funky in that way. But they don't want to go messing too much. But the moment he took off, I was screaming. I got 2 letters for that play alone.
Well, I was going to say the chat missed out of I thought it was pretty good, my section, folks. So I'll see if I can no expense spared on this show. So last week we trialed it. So angry neighbours.
Well, you already know I got 2.
So for those people tuning in, bit of background who you may not have watched before, Nick lives in an apartment. He's not known for being quiet when the Niners game is on. I didn't have to worry about that because we were in the Candlestick Inn, so we were being loud and proud. So you had 2
from that one play.
One play.
I had 2 bangs on the ceiling just from that one play alone. I was screaming the floor down.
So Rob's gone with 7. So don't, before Nick answers, drop your numbers in the chat. So I want to see 7. 7's not a bad guess. So maybe I need to ask how many was it bangs on the ceiling?
It was. Let's say it was bangs on the ceiling. There was no actual letters this week, but I think actually bloody hell, he's gone and done it again. Have you got cameras in my house or something?
There's no.
I'm not happy with this.
There's no prize, buddy. It was just for fun. But I'm sure Nick can sort something out. So you had 5 letters.
There was 5. I say there was 2 literally. My next door neighbours from the side and the ones from below, both banging wall and ceiling at the same time from from Wisnowski's play. But yeah, 5 in total.
See, this is
one of them came from during that fight during the DK thing. I think it was Batter DK that caused it.
I think what people forget on this side of the pond, we're watching the games late. So for us on Sunday, the game started at 9:05 in the evening. It was about 12:15, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning when the game finishes. So it wasn't as late as it could be. So when I'm at home, try to keep the noise down, especially if Tracy and the girls are in bed. And that's what was weird for me with the Thanksgiving game. Celebrating that victory, like being at a silent disco, is never fun. But it would be more than an angry letter that I get off Tracy. So let's have a little look. So Kev is after something from the treasure chest behind you as a
Oh,
simple
it's all
prize.
painted, mate. It's all painted.
So, hey, Rob, watch Party Round Nick's. See how many bangs letters we can get.
I reckon I'd be evicted by the half time.
So, Justin, you've set the bar. Next week, we need to see more than 10. Or we're going to be disappointed. But we will continue this segment. As Ty's put there, the Mitch is run. Definitely got him out of the seat. Jonathan Green has joined us in the house.
Aye.
So, is there anything else that you want to talk about from Sunday's game before I move on to our...
I think it's that time, isn't it? I think it's that time of the evening, Paul. I've been worried now for 41 minutes and 13 seconds.
So this is what most people tune in for. So again, for those who may be joining for the first time, this is Nick's baby. So Nick came up with this segment. Thought it would be a bit of fun, where we'd ask each other a hypothetical question. Nick went a bit evil. I went a little bit evil. Alex Simpson went a lot evil.
Yeah.
Kev Pittman went off the chart. So because Kev and Alex have scarred us, we're a bit reluctant to invite other people on at the moment. So me and Nick have gone back to... Though I am kind of hoping Ty will be able to join us in the next couple of weeks, because I think Ty might have a good would you rather for us. Now, I think you should go first this week, Nick. On this week, would you rather?
All right, Ed. Go on, then. Seeing as you went first last week. Now, obviously, we know you spent a rather spectacular evening at the Candlestick Inn in Falkirk, Scotland this weekend. Now, mini meets have been on the rise of late. There's been a lot more of them. And they've gone down pretty well. We've seen the photos on the Facebook group. We've seen the photos on all the social media channels. They look rather amazing. So I went fairly short and sweet this week. Would you rather have mini meets every week where you just see 3 or 4 people, or would you rather have that one ginormous meetup where there's like 600-700 of us all together for one game? Niners win that game. It's going to be everything. You don't have to worry about going to work tomorrow. Everything's all sorted. You have a few beers if you want. You can generally do whatever you like for that game. Or would you take those little small meetups where there's a lot of early starts? You'll enjoy them. There'll be a few wins. There'll be a few losses. There'll be a bit middle in between. But what would you rather?
See, because you've kind of played quite cleverly, you haven't added layers to the detail. So my honest answer, my gut reaction was neither at the moment, and I'll explain why. But I will give you an answer. So the Irish faithful have started their own watch parties, and have started. I think they had 8 on Sunday, and I did think actually when we first started, that's what we had. We had 8, we had 9, and then we went to Edinburgh in 2019 for the Saints game, and we had, I think it was about 25 of us, and the atmosphere in that bar, the game, it was awesome. But what I like about the smaller meetups, as for want of a better word, as Justin has put there, we tended to pick a game. So say it was a 6 o'clock game. If we picked Bristol, for argument's sake, we'd go down early and we'd all meet up. We'd all go for a few beers, some food, a bit like you do in an away game in England, and you'd have that time with each other. What I've found at the bigger meetups, so the official meetups, London, Leeds, because there's that many of us and we tend to just go straight to the venue, that element of the connections that you've made are lost. So the way you pitched it, I'd probably say neither, but if I had to pick one, I would say the bigger one. But I'm hopeful that, as you've said, tempted not to get Game Pass again next year. Well, I say again, I paid my £150 this year for Game Pass. And when I think of the games I've watched at home, they've been few and far between. They've been blacked out on Sky. And we talked about when we went out for the gold mine, Nick, that was a big aim of Lee's, was to get that big meet up, Levi Stadium. We had 40 of us there. And that was kind of like the pinnacle. And then when you think realistically, can we do that every year? Probably not. You're not going to get the same 40 anyway. And my dream when I took over the social media was seeing the community grow, like what Chapman and Breeze you've got, seeing the mini watch parties, the mini meets. I mean, Martin Hughes, God bless him, he shared a picture from the Candlestick Inn. He was sat next to me on Sunday. and he tagged Kazi 901 Club Bar on Twitter. And I think he had like 5,000 impressions on Twitter, and he was like, "My phone's melting down." I was like, "Good numbers, those, buddy. Worried for my job here." And then I was just saying that we get a lot of love across the pond. So Gopher has put on here that he feels like he's such an interloper.
Never.
And as Justin has put there, you're part of the faithful. And Justin, what I love, you're out in Oklahoma, USA, you're getting your flag. And this is what we're saying. We're all 49er faithful fans. We just had the UK on this end, just so you know where we're from.
Not that the accent gives it away.
No. Gopher, being a 49ers fan, gone on 55 years.
Hell yeah.
Joe Montana was a mere 13 years old at the time. 43 this year, buddy. I feel old. Nick's the young pup on this show, which he pointed out
Never
on
guess
social
it.
media.
Never guess it. I'm 40 in March.
So to answer your question, I would say the bigger meetup. That was a good question because I am hopeful next year that we have quite a lot of the smaller meetups. And a slight disclaimer, I did show off that I was going to Candlestick Inn. It is a private venue. Brett Sinclair, absolute legend of the group.
He's got an amazing little man cave there. Fair play.
So if you want to get yourself at the Candlestick Inn, the key to it is meet Brett, make friends with Brett, which isn't hard to do, and then get yourself on the waiting list. But as he said on Sunday, Nick, he would have everyone and anyone at the Candlestick Inn. But bear in mind, it's a bar in his back garden. there's limited space. Now, I didn't have time to prepare my standard would you rather. So, Ty, there's nothing written down. However, being sharp on social media, I don't watch college football. So Nick shared something recently about 2 players that have declared for the draft. So all I know is one is Jerry Rice's son and one is Frank Gore's son. So my would you rather, Nick, is very simple. You're a fan of both. I know you'd love us to sign both, but John Lynch has been on the phone. You can only take one. So who are you taking? Are you taking the next coming of Jerry Rice? Or are you taking the next coming of Frank Gore?
Thanks, Paul.
That's all we've got time for, everyone.
Yeah, I think it is. We're coming up. Yeah, that doesn't say 47. That's 57 on the top corner there. This is a rough one, especially if you're going to choose between the two. I want both. And I make no things with this. Isn't because I particularly think that they're both going to be Hall of Famers. This is purely rose-tinted glasses. It is me being a homer. I want both. I do. I want them both. As far as I'm concerned, they should both be taken. Legacy picks, whatever you want to call them. I want them both. I want Jerry's kid and I want Frank's kid. But for choosing one, it's rough because when you start to look at it, I think you have to look at it as the team now, aren't we? As far as receivers go, I reckon we're actually looking pretty good. You know, you've got Debo, you've got Ayuk, we've got 3rd and 1, and I think Ronnie Bell's going to come good. I think there's a little bit of dog in him. You can see it. He's been taught. Well, he's been coached by Harbaugh in Michigan. You know he's going to have a little bit of down and dirty in him. I think he would mix in fairly well. So you've got 4 really good receivers there. There is a little bit more room for Frank Jr. So I think I'm going to take Frank Jr. just because we are seeing Mitchell is very injury prone. I think this could be his last time with us. I'd be surprised if he's with us next year. Jeremy McNichol, bit up and down. I know he's been with us before. He went away to the Titans. He came back. I think it would have to be Frank's son, just because of that.
So you heard it here first, folks. Nick does not want Jerry Rice's son. I won't.
No. I knew he was going to go that route. No, I knew he was going to go down that route.
You did that to me the other week. So yes, Rob, hard, but clever. Ty, it's a legacy thing. Draft both players.
Both.
I do appreciate your answer that. Justin's put a good spin on it there. Rice would have so much pressure on him. I think at the moment, if I'm being honest, like you said, we've seen Jordan Mason take the field, which to me signifies that it's going to be CMC, Jordan Mason, Mitchell, but injury prone. Like you said, McNichol isn't the answer. Got to admit, Gopher, I really appreciate. So he listens to the podcast every week. First time he's caught us live. So to be fair, we've added the live element
much.
because we're trying to bring something different to the channel. Cheeky ask, please do drop us a like, drop us a subscribe on the YouTube channel because the podcasts go on there as well. But yeah, me and Nick, it feels just like yesterday, Nick, but what we're coming up nearly a year now.
We are 5 or 6 weeks shy of a year because we started the week before the playoffs last year.
So yeah, our little baby had been on the back burner for a
Slowly.
while. El Presidente doesn't miss a thing. Me and Nick were contemplating going alone, starting the YouTube channel from scratch. And Lee was like, come aboard. So we've hit 650 plus subscribers. Cheeky
It's going
plug.
well.
We're very impressed that our friends across the pond show us the love because the feeling is reciprocated. David, if he's related to CMC,
He got me half, right?
so it would be a miss for us to do a show and we've talked for 51 minutes without me saying I love 23. And I'm going to keep saying that. 23 is up there, one of my favourite players. Before we finish off, Nick, a bit of fun. We were talking at the Candlestick Inn about jerseys and what jersey we want next. And I was thinking, do I want a Purdy jersey? I don't want to put the pressure on myself because my quarterback record's not been great. And then you think to just pick one player on this team, if you could only buy one jersey of a player on this team, who would you be buying? Just think you had no Niners jerseys at the moment. Newish to the sport. You've found the Niners. They're your team. Who do you reckon you'd be picking as your jersey?
George. If I don't have a jersey, it'd be George. 100% all the way.
Yeah, well, I've got two Kittles. I've got a Warner. I've got a CMC. I've got an Ayuk. So I was trying to think, next jersey. I was like, do I go defensive?
I mean, next one, I don't know.
So
my next one's likely to be Fred.
I'm going to say my Fred 54, my gold jersey is one of my favourites. So I've tried to think of my rotation. So I like the legend fit at the moment. So I've got Bosa, Kittle, CMC, Warner, legend fit. Then I've got my Ayuk game jersey. My Vapor Limited jerseys, the quality has gone a bit downhill recently. So that's my Kittle 75 anniversary throwback.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But I think if I'm being brutally honest, and I always like to tell the people breaking news, it's between Purdy and Deebo Samuel for my next jersey at the moment.
That's going to be tough to choose between them, in fairness.
It is. I definitely won't be getting a jersey for Christmas. I've got other things on the wish list. Just a cheeky reminder to people that we won't be going live on Boxing Day, which is Tuesday the 26th. I have promised family time comes first. And equally, our game will have been on in the early hours. And on this side of the pond, Boxing Day is quite big for sport and fixtures. So me and Nick are going to have a night off. We're not fully decided whether you're not going to have a show at that point in the week. I'm at work on the Wednesday, Thursday. Don't know what your work schedule's like, Nick. Are you off for Christmas?
I'm back in work. Still got to get people in for their heart monitors.
Yeah, I'm at work on the Wednesday, Thursday. But the beauty of YouTube, Nick, and this is where I'm digressing nicely, is you just need to turn on those notifications, hit that like button, follow both me and Nick on social media. I've noticed you've been a little bit baseball heavy recently, Nick. Don't profess a lot about it. I went to the Giants stadium tour. I'll be a Giants fan because I like the Bay Area. I don't know anything about that player who's just signed for £809 billion.
Shohei Ohtani.
And he's only going to get paid 10 pence for the next so many years or something, get all that money in the last year of his contract. But Nick does normally tweet out during the games. I tend to stay off social media for the games. But anything else that you want to talk about, Nick, before we finish off?
No, I mean, let's be honest. Bring on the Cardinals. That's going to be a bloodbath. Yes. We're going to destroy them. It is going to be a bloodbath.
It is. Are you worried about Kyler Murray?
No, not to be honest with you. Okay, they're probably going to do some decent things. He'll have a few good plays. They're not winning that game. Yeah, I know. He's going to be a damn Dodger. Dirty. But no, I say we're going to smash those Cardinals. The tough game is going to be the next one after. This next game is just how much are we going to win by? How much are we going to demoralize that Cardinals franchise?
Well, I'm normally Mr. Positive. I'm not going to disagree that we're going to win, but I like the team's mantra of taking one game at a time. We've clinched the playoffs with 4 games to spare, but we all want that number 1 seed. I want us to approach this game like we should to divisional rival. I want to sweep the West again. I would love us to do nothing more than sweep the West. The Rams put up a good fight against the Ravens. We're at that wonderful time in the NFL, Nick, where victory Mondays always taste sweeter in December. We haven't got many games left of the regular season, but we've already punched our ticket for the playoffs. The 49er Faithful UK pod we did last night, which is a breakdown of the Seahawks game, is out now. We will be recording the Cardinals preview, so keep an eye out for that. Nick, Justin has put there, just wants to thank us for everything. He will post pictures of the flag all over, everywhere, whenever he gets it. That's what we want to see. And I just wanted to finish off that, well, Rob's put there, 50 burger against the Cardinals. Just wanted to say, personally, thank you to everybody that joins me and Nick on a Tuesday. It does mean the world to us. Obviously, we do this as a hobby. We're not paid podcasters, content creators. When we first put this show together, to be honest, I didn't think many of you would tune in and watch. I'm a big fan of the greats over the pond, Chapman, Breezy. Me and Nick have tried to bring our own spin to this kind of content creating game. So we always love the Chats on Fire on a Tuesday. I'm sure you'll agree with me, Nick. Just wanted to say thank you to the community.
Always. I mean, this isn't worth doing if you guys aren't here. You guys make this worth doing. It's the reason I look forward to Tuesday evenings.
So, Gopher, we're about to finish off anyway. That's what we're alluding to. As it's your first time, you've probably realised by now, me and Nick like to digress. We jump around. That's what the Tuesday show is known for. We will be back next week, same time. So 8 p.m. GMT, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon PST, because I can't say what it stands for, which is another thing you'll get used to. So on that note, Nick, I've got the video loaded up. I've thanked everybody. I'm feeling pretty good with the number 1 seed, with the best team in the NFL, and all that is left for me to say is stay safe. Go Niners.
Go Niners.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in our heart, like Joe Montana in the corner, G Clark, Garrison Hurst, stiff farm.